Hello and welcome to Literature PADI. In this video, we are going to look into a concept in literature. In an earlier video, we have looked into the concept of character and characterization in literature. So in that video, we used the analogy of how God created man. So using George Herbert's The Pulley. So his visualization of how God created man. So in this video, we are going to look into another concept. We are going to look into the concept of a theme. What is a theme in literature? So, and for this, I'm still going back to the analogy of God's creation of man. We as characters in his grand story, he as the author of the universe, the relationship and all that. So I'm going to use that as the premise for this lesson. So a lot of people, when they dissect the creation story, they talk about how God created man. He did this, he did that, he rested on this day and all that. But in most religions, we barely talk about why God created man. So why God created man? Why? So why? For what purpose? For what? For what purpose? So whether Abrahamic religion or otherwise, we have a different reasons. For some, God just created us as his imitation. He wants us to exude in his grace. He wants us to exude in his glory. He wants us to exalt him, etc., etc. And for some others, he just wants us to worship him. He wants us to worship him and glorify him. So that is a controlling purpose of the creation narrative. So it is the controlling. And when we liken this to literature, we can say a theme is the controlling purpose of a literary text. It is the controlling purpose of a literary text. So it drives the text. It informs the writing of the text. So when a writer sits down and conceives a story, wants to create characters, wants to give characters attributes, wants characters to take part in one event or the other, wants to create context, environment for the character to function in. So if there is that idea or ideas, the intent that drives the creation process and all that. So that creation process falls within the ambit of a theme. So in other words, a theme is the central idea or ideas or messages in a literary text or literary piece. So it is that idea, or message the author is trying to convey. So when a writer creates a character, for example, so he wants the character to be greedy, he wants the character to be this and that. So the attributes and everything in that character contract. They contract to form or metamorphose into a theme. So in the long run, they contract into a theme. So for example, you would see a text and you know, yes, this character does this character does that. There's already a pattern. And by that pattern, the author is trying to convey a particular message. And that is what a theme is, the central idea or messages in a literary piece. And using Elmer Shaw's redemption rule, for example, the theme of redemption is very dominant in the text. And speaking of the theme of redemption, we know that a war is not a child's play. And the book is basically grounded on the aftermath of the Liberian Civil War. So this book looks into how the war survivors are reintegrated into the society, the channels through which they are reintegrated into the society, how some embraced forgiveness, how some embraced how some embraced pursuits of justice. So this is basically what the book is all about. And then how some of the characters are rehabilitated. They are rehabilitated to absolve them of their trauma, their bitterness, etc., their losses. So this is one way to look at redemption. This is one message Elmer Shaw must have had in mind while writing Redemption Road. And speaking of that same book, we also have other themes like a dehumanization of war, how war reduces how war debases humans to animals, how that wild animal instincts take over men. We see child soldier phenomenon, how children were given guns, were armed with guns, killing sporadically, that wanton destruction of human lives and properties. So that is humanization of war. Even though we don't witness that in the present in the text, because it is the text itself is situated in the aftermath of the Civil War. We witness that through flashes from the past, through flashes from the past, through Bendo Lewis traumatic recollection of the past, nightmares, etc. So that is one way to look at it. So dehumanization so redemption, humanization of even corruption. So these are some of the messages Elmer Shaw is trying to portray in. So when she creates a character, when she creates the character of Bendu, for example, she is trying to pass a lot of messages through Bendu. We witness wartime trauma. So that is a theme. Witness redemption. Even in Bendu alone, we witness redemption, wartime trauma. In fact, pursuit of justice. So in the creation of this character, Elmer Shaw is trying to pass some of these messages. These are some of the messages Elmer Shaw is trying to pass. And in the character of George Dagose, for example, she is trying to portray corruption and the perversion of justice. So looking at our text, we have Once Upon an Elephant by Bosede Ademilua Afolayan. And in that text, we have as one of the dominant themes, we have the excessive crave for power, excessive desire for power. And we see that in two characters, Ajanaku and Sherubawan. So it even gets to the extent that they have to at some point they have to sacrifice human lives, 7 virgins at that. So in the creation of these characters, the author is trying to convey the message of excessive desire for power, how people can do crazy things just to hold on to power, just to stay in power forever and things like that. And even in the creation of Ajanaku, just Ajanaku alone, we see that manifestation of tyranny. We see how tyrants behave. We see how Ajanaku snatches people's wives. How he maltreats people. So that is a tyranny. That is the manifestation of tyranny. So when an author sits down and decides to write a story, you should know that the intent, the motivation, the motive behind the writing of the story is what is known as a theme. So the messages the author is trying to portray through the telling of that story, through the creation of the characters. So it is in tandem with the creation of universe to the intent, what the purpose for creation of man, and what God had in mind while creating each of us. Okay, you should do this, you should do that. You will see some people, their own purpose is just to cause a social disharmony. So that is their own purpose, or social imbalance, to upset social balance. Some are just created to upset social balance. So in that context, the thing they manifest, the idea they manifest is what is known as a theme. So this is basically what a theme is. A theme is a central idea or ideas or messages conveyed in a text by an author. So, and that brings us to the end of today's class. Till our next class. Thank you.